On this episode, we're giving the best tips and tricks for taking tiny travelers to Walt Disney World. Today's February 11th, 2025, and this is episode 745 of the Main Street Magic Podcast.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts, Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Main Street Magic. I'm your host, Jeremy Stein, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely wife, Rhonda.
Hey guys! Make sure you check us out on the web at mainstmagic.com, as well as follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at mainstmagic, and on TikTok at MSM Podcast.
If you want to be part of the community and join the conversation, in addition to live streams from the parks and our weekly live show, head to Facebook and search for the Main Street Magic community and ask to join.
And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.
Planning a trip to Disneyland or Walt Disney World can be overwhelming and at times just downright frustrating. But don't worry, because Mouse Dining removes the frustration of booking Disney dining reservations, alerting you when they spot availability for your desired restaurant, date, meal, and time. Visit msmfriends.com to use this free service. Want to get a free Disney e-gift card up to $250? Book a qualifying Walt Disney World or Disneyland room or package through our preferred travel partner, MEI Travel, and get a Disney e-gift card valued up to $250. This offer is valid for bookings made between January 2nd and February 28th, 2025 for travel check-in dates through August 31st, 2025. Certain restrictions apply. Visit mainstmagic.com/travel for a fee-free, no-obligation quote today.
So I feel like it's been a while, and I feel like we're finally kind of not back to normal. No, let's not even joke.
Yeah, we'll never be back to normal, but we are back to recording together because last episode we had John, a guest appearance took place. Mm-hmm. You had a busy week. I had a busy week. We usually record on Sundays for Tuesday and Thursday for Friday.
Correct.
But a lot of times our Thursdays have plans. They get interrupted. So we're having to get ahead of the game. And that's when it's awesome when we got folks like John that can come and fill in. Yes. And I learn a lot when John is on episodes. As much as I think I would like to think I know about Disney food and dining, he knows 10 times as much, and especially when you go out to some of the other theme parks. Yeah, SeaWorld and Universal and Busch Gardens and all these different places. So if you want to see, of course, the writing that John is doing, go out to mainstmagic.com. You can see all the different stories that he's putting out there. And it is on food from all of the theme parks throughout Central Florida and then over into Busch Garden areas and Tampa and all. So you want to check those out. But yeah, last Thursday, I took a very quick trip up to see my parents. So I met my brother there. But I don't think it had been the four of us. I couldn't tell you.
I would say probably 20-something years.
It's possible. I'm trying to think of another time.
I mean, before me, because I always usually go with you.
Right. So that was nice. It was a very quick trip. I had to fly commercial for the first time in 5 years.
How was that?
That is, man, it seems like so much has changed in 5 years, yet nothing has changed.
When the next time we fly together.
Yes, which I'll be excited for. So there's no direct good flights from Jacksonville to Myrtle Beach area. So I had to go through Charlotte. So I left at 6:15 a.m. on Thursday. I arrived in Myrtle Beach at 10:30 a.m. I then left Myrtle Beach at 7:40 a.m. on Friday and arrived back in Jacksonville at 1:25 p.m. All those through Charlotte. So airports have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
There's one thing I found very interesting was the same or similar AI system that we saw them introducing into the All-Star, right? Into the food court that we assume they're going to be testing for a while and then roll out to additional properties and areas. They're using in the airports. So again, 5 years ago, they didn't have that. I did not.
Okay.
I probably should have, but I was like, But they have, so literally, I mean, it's this whole row. It's got food and beverage and everything. You go up and you take your items, you take them over, you put them under the AI system. It takes the photos, all that. A lot of vending machines, a lot of self-service stuff that I don't remember, including, I told you this, but a Lego vending machine in the Charlotte airport.
Now,
And
are these little Legos that...
no, I'm thinking, okay, that's a great idea, right? You get
Right.
like some of these little sets that, like we have the Stitch one that Kaylin got me.
Right.
That's like a little kind of almost big head Stitch. I'm thinking little sets, you grab those, you're like, oh man, we didn't bring something to entertain the kids or Jeremy. Like, let's get a little Lego. No, these are full size Lego sets right there in a vending machine in the airport, which I find odd. Mm-hmm. They also had a full Lego store with everything. Like they had the Hocus Pocus Lego set in it.
Wow. Could you imagine getting that and getting on a flight and then like starting to work?
That's what I want to do.
Like,
I want to take like a 4,000 piece Lego set and just start on a flight.
oh my
Or,
God.
and then at the end of the flight, just be like, oh man, we're already here. Like I didn't even finish. The other thing I'd like to do sometime, I think would be fun, is sit next to someone on a flight, like a long flight, not say a word to them the entire time. And then as soon as you land, look over and be like, hey, I'm Jeremy. Where are you from? And just like start a conversation then as you're getting ready to leave.
Why?
That would be, I don't know, I think it'd be fun.
Okay.
Either planes have gotten smaller or I've gotten larger. It might be a little bit of both because I have zero room on them now. So that was fun. I talked to a very nice lady on the way from Charlotte to Myrtle Beach. Mm-hmm. And we got in trouble, which was interesting. We were chatting and talk, she's asking, where am I going? What am I going up for? I said, why is she going and all? And she was actually going to see a friend who had moved to the Myrtle Beach area 2 years ago, whose husband recently passed away, unfortunately. And so she was meeting some other friends out there to, go see the friend and spend some time with her and all that.
Very nice.
So we're talking about all this, and the flight attendant comes through and looks at us and says, so did you guys have a nice conversation? And we were both like, oh, yeah. Like, that was a weird question. And she goes, these small planes, the sound really carries and people are trying to listen to the safety instructions. We were both like so taken aback by that.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, we weren't talking loudly. And it was so weird.
Yeah, that is.
So
Not very nice of that lady.
It was not. And she was like serious about it. Like her tone, everything was kind of
right.
rude. We were both just dumbfounded. So we just went right back to talking. I was like, whatever. And to be fair, like I personally, I think everybody has superstitions about stuff. Maybe even if they don't know it.
Right.
Like, for example, my brother, who has flown, I don't know how many hundreds of flights, he does not look out the window upon takeoff or landing. He doesn't.
I don't get that,
right?
but okay.
I'd like to. I don't know why. I like to.
Ditto.
I personally never pay attention to the safety instructions. And I think it's a
What's
weird...
going to happen one day when you might need those safety instructions?
First of all, I know how to fasten a seatbelt. Okay, so that's okay. I'm going to be honest. If unfortunately something awful does happen, and that happened recently, it sounds bad, but you're in such a situation that you're gonna do what you need to do. Yeah. For example, your instincts are going to kick in. I would assume most likely. Again, you don't really know, but you're going to have that fight or flight response where, you're going to survival of the fittest in a sense. You're going to kick into high gear and go, all right, I know that there's a flotation device under this seat.
Right.
I know that there is oxygen masks above. I know I'm supposed to put it on myself before I do a child or help somebody else. Who knows what's going to happen when that comes. But my superstition is just weird. Yeah. My superstition is if I watch that and I pay attention, I'm going to need it. You know what I mean? So okay. I just choose not to. Another thing, this is new, right? To go alcoholic beverages from the restaurants and bars within the airport.
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't remember that in the past, but they're everywhere. So now you can't take them onto the plane, so you'd have to finish them almost like a ride at Disney. But I don't feel like I remember because when I was drinking, and I did plenty of it at airports, waiting around in layovers when I was traveling a ton, you had to sit there. You couldn't take it to go. Right.
And I remember the last time I flew to Vegas, I think I enjoyed a martini but I sat there
at the
and
bar,
I had
right?
lunch.
But I wonder. Yeah, I don't remember like coming out of Myrtle, and I thought it was backwards. There are three guys that looked like they were probably there golfing together, like a guys' weekend, and they were slamming mimosas that they had gotten from the little Mexican taco place in 16-ounce like plastic cups. They were getting rid of those before they got to board the flight, but I just felt like I hadn't seen that before. So, and I still want to know who goes to the airport and buys luggage. Like, are people showing up with just an arm full of clothing? Like, oh, I know I forgot something. I forgot a suitcase. Let me go into Toomey and buy one for 3 times the amount that I could get one anywhere else in the world.
I have no idea.
Some of the stores are so interesting to me.
Yeah.
Another one. This was new that I had not seen before, and then we'll move on to an actual episode about Disney. I literally had not flown in 5 years, and I used to fly once a month. I mean, nothing crazy. Once every other month.
Right.
And so I was very used to it. At Charlotte, 2 right around the corner from each other, and that was only in one concourse, were gaming areas. So they were set up with gaming systems, big screen TVs, headphones, recliners, so you could go and rent time. Yeah, which is genius.
That is.
So a lot of the things I'm like, this is really, really smart. And then other stuff, I'm just like, who's shopping for diamonds right now? You know, like I do understand. All right, you get to the airport, you get through security, and you're like, I totally forgot a jacket. Oh, I forgot a jacket. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can go find one because I know that our destination, we're not going to have time to go somewhere and shop. Maybe it's a business meeting, whatever. But some of them just blow my mind. So, but what we're going to talk about today is not traveling with Jeremy. It's traveling with the tiny travelers. This is going to be not teenagers. We're going to do another episode with teenagers and the older kids. This is going to be pretty much, I'd say, from 12 and under.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you ready to get into it?
Yes.
Where do we want to start? Because a question we get a lot is, when should you take your kids to Disney? Are they too young? What are your thoughts? And we've said this a lot of times.
I just heard say we've always
if you've
said
listened
this.
for a long time, you know. If not, Rhonda's going to tell you our thoughts on when you should take your kids to Disney.
Yeah, and I think it's really funny because I tell people this all the time, clients, all kinds of things. And I think the first time you should take them is when they're free. 3 and under is free. And we found a wonderful age is actually, and I know it sounds very young, but 18 months old.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. I wanted to do this. And Jeremy was like, oh my God, this is stupid. This is stupid. And this is the reason why we talk about it so much. Because, I mean, of course, he was like, we're going to Disney. Yeah, that's great. But the whole time was like, this is going to be dumb.
Now, to be fair, this was before I became the Disney Jeremy that I am today. This was a prior to APs, prior to podcasting.
Loved it. I mean,
I enjoyed it, but at that point, I don't know that I had seen as much the full dynamic of what Disney is. To me, it was still very much a place for kids, and in my mind was for kids that are old enough to remember going to Disney.
Yeah, and that's fair. So, Kaylin at this point definitely watched Mickey Mouse Clubhouse all the time, and we took her, and it's not for the child. This is the first time I'll say is for you.
Yeah.
Because your child's going to do the most amazing things probably and love it, but these are your memories. Then again, when the child is 5 or older, when you're starting to pay for them, 5 is, I think, when they say that kids start remembering things.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So I would say, again, 5, so 3 and under, and you can go as young as 18 months. I say 18 months because that's when kids are like, ooh, and pointing and looking.
Yeah, they really recognize everything and they interact well. Yep. They may not remember it.
Correct.
And that's fine. Nate Bargatze does a great thing, a whole bit about, they were taking their daughter to Disneyland. I think she was 2 at the time. And he's like, a lot of people told me we shouldn't, He's like, I didn't ask them. And they're saying, your child won't remember this. And he's like, what am I supposed to do? Lock my kid in a closet? And you're like, you can't come out of here until you start remembering things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our point. One of our favorite memories ever is Kaylin at 18 months meeting Mickey Mouse for the first time. She doesn't remember a thing about it.
But it was like her meeting a star. She knew Mickey Mouse and seeing him in person. Oh, I still to this day get chills because it was incredible. And it was a memory that I will never, ever forget.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then again, we were able to recreate those memories that she does remember when she was a bit older.
Yep.
And if you do have a child who just say, the way that we did, if you've got your older child and maybe you are taking them for the first time when they're 5 or 6 and you have a newborn that's only 6 months, still go.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
now it's going to be a little more difficult with that newborn, and there's some things you have to do, but don't be like, well, let's wait a whole other year.
Yeah.
You know, focus then on that kid who's 5.
100%.
Knowing that, hey, we're going to have to do some extra things. We got a newborn. I mean, you see a lot of folks that are there with a newborn, and maybe it's their only kid that you see with them. And a lot of times you're thinking, well, they probably planned this trip, you know, just before 9 months ago, right?
Yes.
But they're going to go through it. They're going to do it anyway. So we're going to helpfully give you a lot of tips and tricks that will help you enjoy it more. It will be less stressful for you because we also know that hauling children around Disney is not an easy task.
Yeah.
You know, from the things that you have to bring for them, from taking care of them, to, you know, an 18-month-year-old can't, you know, rope drop to close. So you got to think of it.
An 18-month-year-old?
An 18-month-year-old.
Okay.
That's, an 18-month-old, though, you know. So you have to think of those things. But one of the first things, as Rhonda was saying about, you know, Kaylin watched Mickey Mouse Clubhouse back then. If you go back to episode 676, we did an entire episode on some of the best movies to watch before you go to Disney World so that you can make those connections in the park.
100%.
You know, something like Beauty and the Beast has several opportunities to see without the parks. So you might want to familiarize your kids with stuff like that, right? What about the pre-planning stages? And choosing a resort.
Yeah, you want to choose the right resort. You know, you can do a best value, which would be Art of Animation, which is great theming. And they have family suites. Yeah. So you can go all the way down to the Little Mermaid rooms, which, you know, only sleeps 4. And then, of course, if you had like a, what is it called? Not a bassinet, but, you know,
Under
one
3.
of the,
Yes, correct.
But all the way up to, what is it, 6 in a
6
family
in the
suite?
suites.
And you have 2 bedrooms and 2 full bathrooms, which is very, and I say 2 bedrooms. Well, the bedroom that has the full bath, and then the living area that has the full bath as well.
And something like Art of Animation for suites, you know, I think so often people look at them because they need a place for 6 people. You can look at them because you need a place for 3 or 4 based on the fact you have those 2 bathrooms, based on the fact that you have so much more space. You have a small kitchenette, you know, things like that.
And depending on the age of the child, a lot of times the thing I hear probably the most is it's hard to go back to a Little Mermaid room because everybody has to go to bed at the same time. Yeah. In something like your animation suites, which is Lion King, Dory, or
Finding Nemo,
and Cars, you have that bedroom that, I mean, if you have a bassinet, I keep saying bassinet, but it's not that, it's the playpen thing that they can sleep in.
Pack and play.
You know.
How long it's been since we've had very young children.
But you can put them in there and shut the door and actually hang out in the living room and watch TV.
Huge difference maker.
It is.
It really is. And it's one of those where they can, you know, you're paying moderate to deluxe pricing sometimes on these suites. Yeah. But that can be something to truly budget for and save for because it will make a big difference.
Absolutely.
What about moving on to and here's another one. This is the reason we love the moderate Rhonda's going to talk about is Art of Animation's also on the Skyliner.
Yes.
You know, so you have both Skyliner access, you have bus access, you have ease of you know, accessibility and all to get to 2 parks right from the Skyliner.
Yeah, and if you move up to a moderate, Caribbean Beach is a really fun one. And when, you know, the Skyliner, like we have a little friend that's 6 years old across the street. Every time they stay on the Skyliner, whether it's Art of Animation, whether it's Pop Century is their favorite actually, whether it's one of those because the 6-year-old loves the Skyliner as a ride.
It is a ride in itself. I mean,
it is.
It really is. Plus, Caribbean Beach has 5th sleepers.
Yes,
so
it
again,
does.
that is more space, even if it's not for a larger family.
Right.
You know, if you have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old, your 7-year-old can have a bed to themselves. A 2-year-old can sleep on the 5th sleeper or something like that. So
especially like our girls, you know, if you have 2 girls like we did when we were younger, we
still have 2 girls.
Well, I mean, yes, when they were younger, they did not like to sleep together. So,
or when they're older.
Well, yeah, but
or be in the same room together half the time.
Yeah.
What about moving on to deluxe? And really, a lot of the deluxes are good because you have boardwalk area, monorail areas, things like that.
Yeah, deluxe I would say would be like those, but maybe more like, oh my gosh, contemporary. Sorry, I was trying to like, because you have the monorail and like the contemporary in the main building where the monorail goes through. Those doors, apparently, from what I've been told, we have not stayed there in that main room yet, but if you have a double stroller, like, first of all, you don't have to fold it up on the monorail.
Or Skyliner.
Or Skyliner. You can just roll it on in there. And then I've been told you roll it straight into the room.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're large enough for that.
And that's another one, too. What child wouldn't love to walk out of their door of their hotel room and see a monorail in the building? But those, we're going to talk about breaks a little bit later, and that quick access back to a resort.
Correct.
Poly.
Yep.
Grand Flow or quick access. Those are probably top of the list because chances are if you have children under teenage age, you're going to spend a lot of time at Magic Kingdom.
Yes.
It's just the way that it goes.
Yes, it is.
Now, if you've got the 9-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, the 11-year-olds, maybe your focus is a little bit more Hollywood Studios or Epcot. Look at any of those Skyliner boardwalk areas.
100%.
Because you want quick returns back to your resort for whenever you need breaks. Like, that's going to be super important. All right. What are some other pre-planning things you want to make sure you do?
Definitely review the height restrictions because they will, unfortunately, Disney, again, if you're listening, I think in the beginning of each park, and we've said this every time, you know, they have color, they can make color wristbands. Yeah. And, you know, depending on the child's height, I think they should get that color wristband. And that's where they put it on them.
48 inches blue,
right.
36 inches red, and a cast member can see it and determine.
Yeah.
Because, and the other thing that is still strange to me, and again, somebody reach out if you know the exact reason. You have a measure at the start of the queue, and you have a measure before you get on the ride.
Yes.
And there have been instances
we've
where,
watched.
Yeah, a child has gotten through that first measurement, and they've gotten to the second one, and for whatever reason, they don't stack up. Because
well, I think
I would practice measuring your child at home.
And I agree, but it was so cute. This little boy, he looked very little. We were at Cosmic Rewind. And this is why I think they should have like the armbands and stuff.
You do one measurement.
Right. Because he was tall enough, but it was hysterical because the dad's like, stand up straight, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
And he just kept like slouching and like almost standing under it, and he wasn't tall enough. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm going to try not to exaggerate. I mean, it was probably a solid 5 to almost 10 minutes.
Easy.
Of him.
Yeah.
And dad's trying, the cast members just like, and
the kid's
then
slumping.
Finally.
Then he would stand almost so straight that like his back would arch so his head was back. Like everything he did was not right.
He finally stood up.
Yeah.
And he was tall enough. And I'm just like, and then of course it's backing everybody up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just am like, okay, he was already measured. I just...
It shouldn't have been a need for that second measurement,
but, right?
You know, and that's why I'm like, I'm joking, but I'm not. Practice measuring your kid at home. You know, there's a lot of folks too that I've seen, and you can get them on Etsy. They are height, like things for home that have the rides listed at each height. So while you are at home, your kid can get excited
like
about
Universal.
standing. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love Universal. When you walk into those parks, they've got the guides out front that shows the different heights. Like, you know, you could get something like that for home, but study those height restrictions, know the height restrictions,
just
know
so
what your child's going to be.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, you don't want to promise your kid, oh, this, your son or something or your daughter, you're a big Cosmic Rewind fan. Mm-hmm. They've got this amazing roller coaster that spins and does this and that. And you never check the height and you get there and they're too short. You've now broken their heart, right?
Because we also witnessed this, and of course not with our children, but unfortunately with guests themselves. And I do believe they gave them a time when he was going to be taller.
One great thing is they will give you a
but
return
not all the
pass.
Time, right?
I think it happens at a majority of the rides. They can give you basically a fast pass for your next trip when the child is old enough.
Yes.
So there is an opportunity to do some things like that.
But some children...
But that kid doesn't care at the moment.
Correct.
They just want to ride what you said they were going to ride, and they
Correct.
just waited in line for. So be prepared. Know all the different heights. Please don't try and game the system. Those height restrictions are there for safety reasons. Don't go poofing your kid's hair up. Don't go trying to put the lifts in their shoes. Just there are reasons that the height restrictions are in place. It is safety. That's a system you don't want to dupe. When you're doing those height restrictions, also that might be a good time. Your kid is tall enough for a Cosmic Rewind, a Space Mountain, a rock and roller coaster. Watch YouTube videos with them if you think it's needed. And again, everything we're going to talk about is a pretty general blanketed thing that's going to help most everyone with children, but you also know who your kid is. That
100%.
If you're worried about something like rock and roller coaster, you don't want to show up to rock and roller coaster for as long as it sticks around, but even when it becomes Muppets Mayhem, it's going to still be the same. And not know that it goes upside down, right? Or keep that from your child or whatever it may be, because you're going to scare the what out of someone potentially.
Well, and let's go into the story where, a lot of times people too might think like, oh, well, it's Disney. There's not crazy roller coasters like Universal and stuff, and it's for the little kids. But, let's go into the story of when we had young kids and we went to ride Dinosaur that will become Indiana Jones. And I was excited.
We had never ridden it, and we did not know much about it.
We didn't. But according to like the actual videos before walking in and stuff, you see, we're like, all right, this isn't going to go upside down. This is going to be fine. This is fine.
Yeah.
Well, we get on it. And the kids were fine getting on it, but they were a little nervous, and both kids kept their heads in our laps the entire time. And when we were getting off the ride, Lacey looks up at her daddy and says, "Why did you think that was a good idea?"
Yeah.
It was the funniest thing.
He upset and yelling.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it didn't like scar her for life, but
no,
it could have.
But she didn't want to ride it for a very long time. And then when she did go back to riding it, she did bury her head for years.
Yep.
Until finally, and this could be, and I could be exaggerating a little tiny bit, but I think she was possibly closer to 12.
Probably.
Before she actually was like, put her head up, watched, and was like, all right, that's not that bad.
And this is an instant too where do not force your child on a ride. There's rider swap for a reason.
Yes,
so
there is.
You can go up. You can go up as Rhonda and I, for example. Let's just say we had the two kids. One of them wants to ride. One of them is not tall enough, or we think it might be too scary.
Or they're
we
scared.
Go up. Yeah, we go up. We get a rider swap so that Rhonda rides with. Again, if this was years ago, Rhonda rides with Kaylin.
Right.
I sit out with Lacey.
Which
when it's done,
I've sat with Lacey while y'all went and rode.
When it's done, because I would like to ride it, I get to go back with Kaylin again, who now gets to ride it twice, and I get to ride it while you sit with Lacey. Right. So take advantage of the rider swap because
Please
of that.
do.
And, I know I've told this story of sitting on Rock and Roller Coaster and a mom and her daughter who at the time was probably 9, 10 maybe. I mean, it wasn't like at the exact height restriction. They were certainly able to ride. And I don't know what triggered them when they got on and sat their butt down. I don't know if it was the harness coming down over their head, which it could have been, which is a little bit frightening. And, especially if you don't like small spaces, you got this big harness coming down. The kid starts freaking out and the kid starts trying to get out. And the mom is physically grabbing her child and forcing her into the seat and trying to push the thing down.
And then looks at the cast member and says,
push the thing down. And the cast member's like, I cannot do that. You need to get off the ride. And I guarantee that did scar that child some.
Yeah.
And this mom was visibly upset. She's screaming at the kid. That could have been averted, right? Crisis averted by just not getting in that line. So make sure that you study things, what's going on.
Like Lacey, again, when we were at Universal, we've ridden Splash Mountain plenty of times. Yeah. We were going to ride the Jurassic Park one that is just like Splash Mountain, or excuse me, Tiana's now. And she was like kind of okay with it, but kind of like wanting to ask questions, and then asked a daggum team member like how far is the drop. And when they told her, she got right up, and I was like, oh my God, you're going to be fine. But she backed out.
Yeah.
And
so I immediately took her and
you
walked
did
out of
really
line.
well. I was upset with myself because of, after, like, hindsight is always 20/20.
Yeah.
And after seeing something else like the Rock and Roller Coaster thing, I was like, oh gosh. And I was very upset with myself.
And Lacey was upset with herself at the time.
She was.
But it was a scenario that you go, you know what? And I had ridden it before, of course, but even if I had never ridden it at that time, it's like, all right, I got to make a decision.
Yeah.
Is this worth a huge blow up, fight, arguments, everything, just for me to ride a ride that I can probably ride again later? Or again, in that instance, I could have let you all ride. You could have come out and I could have gone on, so just, don't force them. Be prepared, research, know your height restrictions so you're not making empty promises.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about some dining because I think it is important to have some of this dining. You got to book it 60 days out, of course, if you want the table service and the sit downs, but you also want to be prepared for something like that. So if you're looking at something like an overall dining experience for young children, you get characters, you get extremely close proximity to a park, which happens to be Magic Kingdom. You get classic characters like Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Pluto, and Donald in their chef outfits, a lively, fun atmosphere. The food is probably not going to win any awards or be on the top of the list of some of the best, but Chef Mickey's is probably one of the best overall dining experiences you're going to find for young children because of those. You go to breakfast. It's a lot of classic breakfast food, so you know that most kids are going to like it. You're eating breakfast with Mickey and Minnie and, Donald and Goofy, and then you're walking or hopping on a monorail from the quick, trip from the Contemporary over to Magic Kingdom to enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, that is great.
What about for the little ones that love princesses?
Yeah, like all the little girls. And like the boys would love this too, for sure. But, Cinderella's Royal Table is all your princess. Well, not all of them, but a lot of princesses. It is table service. It is the very expensive one, but so worth it. It's inside Cinderella's castle.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat.
Oh my gosh.
This.
It's so great. It does serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is great. And the princesses are always Cinderella. You do get Ariel and Jasmine, Snow White, and then sometimes there's a couple more.
Yeah, they'll rotate a few of them.
Rotate
and we're going to talk
out.
about another one where there'll be some rotations, but obviously Cinderella's a classic in there. You get little keepsakes.
Yes, you get the wand, and then the boys, if like you don't care about the princesses, you do get a sword though, which is super cool.
If you would like that. If you do breakfast, you can often book ones sometimes prior to park opening, so you can then still maximize your park day.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about breaks later, but okay, let's just say because Cinderella's Royal Table it's a little hard to get sometimes.
And it's expensive.
And it is very expensive. What's a good alternative for the princess lovers?
Another good one is over at Epcot, and it's Akershus. That's family style, and they have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have done both. And back to Cinderella, we have done both as well. But the food on both of these are fantastic.
It is. I'd go back to Akershus in a heartbeat
100%.
for breakfast or dinner
100%.
or whatever it may be.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have Belle, Aurora, Ariel, and Snow White, and sometimes Mulan. Again.
Sometimes Tiana.
And yes,
those
they will
rotate.
Yep. Yeah, it's just really good food, like really good, both breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So
and it's another one, breakfast, you can get in there early. You can often try and maximize. And if you maximize it well enough, and then you want to try and do a quick standby for Frozen Ever After, then that's another good plan.
There you go.
You're right up there. You're in the area. Breakfast will probably have a bit more of classic foods that kids will like some Mickey waffles, scrambled eggs, potatoes, bacon, sausage, things like that. You do get into slightly more like Norwegian, Swedish style food as you get into lunches and dinners. So just something to be aware of. And if you're worried because your kid is also a picky eater, then go back to the last episode with John, because we lay out every tip and trick and place, location, everything you can imagine for those picky eaters. So you can go back and check that out.
Perfect.
Now, how about a themed dining with, obviously Cinderella's Royal Table is a themed dining in that sense, but we also want to kind of cover most of the park. So you're at Animal Kingdom. What's a wonderful themed dining?
Oh, Tusker House is so fun. Because it's Animal Kingdom, so of course it's animal themed, like Safari, where you meet Mickey, Donald, Daisy, and Goofy. It is a buffet, and they do serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but it is more of a adventurous food, but also like there's plenty of also regular food.
Yeah, there's all these buffets are gonna have a full kids section.
Yes,
they're usually gonna include mac and cheese,
and adults
corn
can eat
dogs.
Off this
Yeah, corn dogs.
Yep.
You might have some chicken tenders. So you're gonna still have some simple foods there, but the atmosphere is wonderful, and it is so cool because your kid, if they're not adventurous eater, they can eat that more simple classic food, but the adults get to enjoy a lot of these wonderful African, Indian flavors. It's inside Animal Kingdom. We've kind of called it, Boma's little brother, little sister, whatever it may be. So if you're not going to have an opportunity to get to Boma, because that's over at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, then something like this, I think, is just absolutely perfect. And it's one, if you bridge the gap between breakfast and lunch, if you do a late breakfast and they turn over to lunch, you can also enjoy lunch food.
Yes.
So that is something to keep in mind with some of these breakfast, lunch, dinner, buffet style places.
Yep.
All right. What about those classic Disney fans? Maybe the Disney fan that likes a character that doesn't wear pants. Where are we headed?
Well, that's weird, but...
And they already saw Donald pantsless. So.
The Crystal Palace over at Magic Kingdom is a buffet. It is breakfast, lunch, and dinner again. And you can meet Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Eeyore, and Piglet.
I will say...
This food was really good.
Yeah, and a lot of it is classic. A lot of it is very, very classic.
Yep.
I think everybody's going to find something they like. Now, if you're like, I want to have, out of this world food from countries all over, like that's when you go to like a Tusker House.
Yeah.
This, you're not going to get anything exotic or adventurous, but you're going to find something I think that everybody likes.
Yeah, 100%.
And we dined there. It was just Rhonda and I, and the character interactions were wonderful. But if you... Oh, the characters were not back, were they? That's right. Characters were not back at that time.
But we were okay because please don't hate us, but we're not the ones that love,
we're not a big fan
Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and Eeyore. I do love
but
Piglet.
What I was going to say is if you go out to social media and you look out interactions from look for interactions from characters with kids, they are some of the best you will find. These character interactions are absolutely outstanding here. They are top notch. So it is a great place to go for stuff like that. What if you got Disney Junior fans, which we did at one point when they had Jake from the Neverland Pirates was there and Doc McStuffins and all when we went.
That's over at Hollywood Studios, obviously, and it's Hollywood and Vine. Again, it's buffet, and they do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now it's different because breakfast they have Fancy Nancy, Vampirina, still Doc McStuffins, and then Goofy. Lunch and dinner is Minnie and Friends and like some seasonal outfits and stuff like Christmas, Halloween, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's different again because when our kids were so young, we did have Jake and
and it was always the Disney Junior all day. So if you're focusing on those Disney Junior characters, you have to do breakfast.
Right.
But again, as we said, breakfast is a great... And, for the most part, we don't recommend you spend a ton of money on breakfast. But you should probably allow one in these types of instances.
100%.
Now, I wouldn't look at doing every single morning a sit-down breakfast. You're going to spend a lot of money normally for a lot of pretty regular standard food. But if you are going to do that character dining, breakfast is a great time, as we've pretty much
And obviously, with us talking about all of these different breakfasts, I think it's nice because obviously we're talking about the face characters that are human, and then not like, you know, the junior,
the Winnie the Poohs and the Disney,
right?
the Disney Junior play
and
ones.
And moving on to Ohana.
Yeah, this would be, if you want a relaxed, chill breakfast, Ohana is our selection for the relaxed one. And especially if you're staying on those monorail resorts. But not even that, visiting the Poly, if you can fit it in, is amazing. So, you know, you're staying somewhere else, even if you're off-site, you're over at the All-Stars on property or something, you can make your way to Poly for a breakfast. And of course, we love this one. Why do we love Poly so much?
Oh,
Breakfast.
100%.
Well, first of all, it's at Poly, which is incredible.
It's Poly. And then second, it is family-style breakfast, so they bring you all that you can eat. But second, I mean, our favorite is you get to meet Lilo, Stitch, Mickey, and Pluto, and that is just amazing to me.
Yeah.
I love Stitch and Lilo.
You know, while this is a family style, Whispering Canyon, for example, is a family style. Now, it's not a character, but one thing that can be good about family style, especially when your kids are super duper young, you don't have to deal with getting up for a buffet.
Yes.
You know, if you have a 2-year-old, you know, now I understand they can sit at the table with one of the parents, but let's just say you want you can't have the whole family get up at a buffet if you got a 2-year-old. It's going to be a pain for everyone.
Right.
So that means one parent's got to sit with the kid. Other parent goes, gets some food, brings it back. Then the parent that was sitting, they get to go get. When you do the family styles, like in Ohana, nobody has to get up. The food is brought to you. So it actually that's a reason it makes the dining experience so chill and so relaxed. So something just to think about there as well.
And don't forget Polly, unfortunately, the Ohana only has breakfast characters.
Yes, that is
so
the
if
only
you
one
do
for
lunch
characters.
and dinner, well, do they
Dinner,
do lunch?
lunch, but
that's
they have
right.
dinner,
Excuse me, just dinner. It's still fantastic,
Yeah.
but there are no characters.
Unless
so
you go with me. Thank you. I appreciate the pity laughs. Renting strollers, bringing strollers. I would, if you are flying, then look at umbrella strollers to get you through the airport and all. I think. Then when you get on property, you can go ahead and rent a stroller. You know, if you go to msmfriends.com, you'll see our preferred stroller rental and EC rental company is Kingdom Strollers.
Yep.
There's a link right there. You can go ahead and click. That not only supports them as a small business, but also supports us as a small business as an affiliate of theirs. You want something lightweight, but it is nice to have something with some storage, right?
Oh, 100%.
What about when, you know, at home, your kid is no longer really stroller age? What do you think about at Disney?
Well, and this is, we have experienced this as well. Even if you think, or even if they're not stroller anymore, and it's nice because you can rent from Kingdom Strollers, but if it is a situation where they do have them at the parks and stuff.
Yes.
Because if they are like not stroller kids anymore and you're like, oh, they don't ever sit.
You may buy a stroller at Disney.
Yes, because Disney is so different and kids get tired and they just might need that rest. It's better for them and better for you.
Yeah. I mean, we went with our friends, John and Michelle, years ago. Kaylin, I think, was maybe 7 at the time. Lacey was like 5. We didn't bring a stroller. We're like, they don't need strollers anymore. John and Michelle brought strollers for their kids that are about a year younger or so than Lacey. They were also much more seasoned veterans of Disney, which is why they brought them. Kaylin and Lacey, every chance they got that John and Michelle's kids weren't in their strollers, they wanted to sit in them because they were exhausted.
Yeah, that was the last time we not brought them.
Yeah, I know. So seriously, you might have a 6-year-old. Now, I understand that's the point. That's the time where you maybe find a trip to Walmart when you get there or Target and you buy a $15 umbrella stroller to carry around. You don't have big diaper bags and things like that, so you do that. Or you rent one of the smaller strollers from somewhere like Kingdom Strollers. Yep. But just don't underestimate the use for a stroller. And not only for the children, but for all the junk that you're going to lug around. Yeah. I really do miss having a stroller.
Yeah.
I'll agree. And honestly, at points, we would take strollers knowing the kids weren't going to spend a lot of time in them because we were buying merchandise or we were packing snacks, or it was back when we were taking 2 full, 40-ounce Yeti water bottles filled with ice and water that were heavy. you have to think a little bit differently and outside of the box when you're going somewhere like Disney to compare to the way you might do it at home.
And my thought is you always kind of like think of yourself. Like, you sit down, you're tired, and if you want to keep going, like your children, so just,
Like, I mean, for example, now, my dad, who has had multiple knee surgeries.
Poor thing.
He does not need a wheelchair or an ECV in everyday life.
He would need
if he went to Disney, he would need one. And that's something you have to understand as well as getting into that point. There are some people, it is hard for whatever it may be for them to be on their feet all dang day long, even though at home they don't need these types of things. So really the same thing goes with kids.
And in all honesty, you are averaging around Disney 30,000 steps about a day, if not 30 to 40. Like it's that recent weekend, we did one of the busiest days we have done recently, but it still wasn't busy by a lot of standards. We hit like over 20,000 steps and almost 10 miles of walking that day. Imagine that on a little kid's feet, even if they're 6, 7, 8 years old sometimes. Or a 75-year-old man.
Or a 75-year-old man who's had 6 knee surgeries. So, all right. Packing smart for the parks. You go back to episode 506. We do a full packing episode.
Yeah.
We will cover everything. Whether you got little kids, you got the old people with knee surgeries, you got us, whatever it may be. But what are a few items you just really want to make sure you have with kids?
Change of clothes. For accidents, spills.
I sometimes need a change of clothes, to be fair.
Or having it, because depending on the season and if it's a hot day and you allow them to play in the water of the parks, then you maybe they don't want to be wet.
They're running through everything at Moana Journey of Water, or the fountains that are sometimes shooting off over near Cosmic Rewind and all, and Mission Space, even Disney Springs. There are a lot of these types of areas. Obviously snacks, beverages, refillable water bottles. Vacation, grocery, delivery, FL.com.
Yes.
Get your kids snacks delivered. Have them. We talk a lot about this on that last episode for picky eaters. Otherwise, you're going to have meltdowns. That also goes for a lot of adults. So. What else is really good? We're already talking about strollers, right?
Yeah, a stroller fan. Florida heat can be, like, it's crazy. Like right now, we're having beautiful days of 80, 82, 83 degrees. And like when it's cooler in the morning, but it's still 80, like you still need that nice fan.
You wake up in the morning, it is going to throw you off because you're like, this is going to be perfect. The weather's so cool. I might even wear a little jacket.
Nope.
Wait till 2 p.m., dude. Get one of these stroller fans.
Small toys and stickers to keep the kids entertained while in line.
There are no Lego vending machines at Disney World, so you can pick up a Hocus Pocus set for your child to do as you walk around the park. So.
Yeah. And always sunscreen and cooling towels. Sunscreen because, again, even if it's the high is like 75, I mean, the sun is out. Like, it is out.
I didn't show you this. I just want to see your reaction real quick. This was a post in one of the Facebook groups. Somebody was asking for some help because this is recently in 70-some degree weather, and the person unfortunately is very, very, very burnt because
that's sad.
A lot of folks don't realize even if it could be 60 or something in Florida, you think, well, I don't need sun lotion.
Yes,
this
you
is
do.
fine. You do. So, and really, especially for those kids. So.
That hurts my heart.
I know.
Oh, God, that hurts.
And talk about ruining a vacation quick. That can.
Yeah.
I have had like sun poisoning. We went to Myrtle Beach one time, and first day I got it. I mean, to the point where I was just laying in bed. It was on my back. I was laying in bed on my stomach for most of the trip, and we were all like 16 years old. Like this was supposed to be a fun, and that did not go well. Research, take advantage of Lightning Lane.
Yeah.
Multi-pass, single pass.
Yep.
I know a lot of people don't want to pay for this, but if you use it correctly, it really does work.
Yes, it does.
And it will maximize your time. It will shorten your time in lines, which we know no child likes. That's why you're bringing some of the stickers or toys. You're downloading Heads Up.
Right.
Maybe for a little bit older kids, but you're downloading Heads Up so you can play stuff in the queue. But you can shorten all of that if you just go ahead and get lightning lanes, right?
Yep.
All right. What should you do about those breaks? Should you maybe schedule a little downtime, Rhonda? Maybe a little midday break for the kid, right?
Obviously, if that is exactly what your kid needs.
Yeah.
We personally never did. But I think ours was very different. But yeah, especially depending, because a lot of times people have longer trips and all kinds of things. Like, go to the parks early, go ahead and rope drop, because a lot of times kids that young are getting up early anyway.
They're ready to rock and roll.
Yep. So rope drop, get that done. Take a break in the middle of the day, or take a pool break if it's so hot. Let them play for a little bit.
And this is where that monorail resort, that, boardwalk area, Skyliner, that's that quick access back.
Yep.
Now, what we would do with our children, because it worked, is we would find a quiet spot.
Yes.
And this is another thing when you go back to strollers and you're thinking of what kind of stroller.
Yep.
If you're not going to go back to the resort for your midday breaks or whatever, there are a couple things you can do. One, you can go ahead and plan like a sit-down lunch, or something like that, so you can get a little bit of break. But if they really need a nap, we had strollers that would recline and lay down, and they could literally lay down and sleep in that stroller with no issue.
Yep.
And we would go and we would just chill.
Yep.
Somewhere quiet,
wonderful.
in the shade, get them a nice 30-minute nap or something.
And that's where those
and then you
fans
didn't have
come
to go.
in.
Yes, very much so.
Yep.
And we didn't have to go all the way back to the
Correct.
resort. But if that's not your kid, then know that. Go back to the resort.
Right.
Take a break.
Yep.
Yeah, cool off in the pool, whatever it may be.
And then return for the evening fireworks and whatnot.
Yeah. All right. Plan your days accordingly. So right now, you are staying on Disney property. You get a water park on your day of arrival.
Yeah.
I believe the first we'll probably get an opportunity to test this out will be March 14th when we go. That because it'll be nice and hot, and we're staying at an All-Star. So we'll go straight to the water park that morning. If you had heard the episode when we renewed, we opted not to get the water park add-on this year, so we can specifically test out how well does this work. Is it worth it? Is it a great little perk now that Disney's offering? If you're going to rope drop one morning and you know that, maybe you don't close down a park the night before, right?
Right.
And vice versa.
Right.
If you are closing down a park one night and you know it, don't plan to rope drop the next morning.
Right.
You got to do that. And as we say, 2 days on, 1 day off, dependent on the length of your trip, is really important.
And that's what I was just going to say. If you are going to do that and go hard those 2 days, then have that relaxed day, Yeah. And maybe that'll be your also split stay where then you could, go to the water park again.
Yeah. Oh, that's a perfect one. Yeah, that's your day to move. You're there. You check in on a Sunday. You're a little bit later. Can't take advantage of the water park. So you go on parks Monday, Tuesday. On Wednesday, you switch to another resort as a split stay. You get your water park day. Kind of chill out a little bit there. Then you're at the new resort Thursday, Friday. Go 100%. Home Saturday or whatever it may be. Another one is you can save those going back to the breaks, but also plan your days accordingly. Maybe save some of those relaxing rides or shows for the afternoon. That's the time to go see
Carousel
the Nemo
of Progress.
show, do Carousel of Progress, Philhar Magic,
Yeah.
For a very short time, Muppets 3D, things like that. Or that's when you go ahead and plan your lightning lane for a Navi River journey. Something like that where it's a slow boat ride. It's in the air conditioning. It's a little bit dark. Most kids can also nap the way Rhonda does, so you can go ahead and nap on there. What are some common mistakes you definitely want to avoid?
Overpacking a park bag. You don't want, keep it light.
Which we used to do all the time.
Strollers can hold some extra stuff, but I have seen so many times where if the kid gets out of the stroller, that stroller will dump over.
It will.
And I'm like, oh gosh.
Or you've seen one. They're pushing the stroller. The bottom is filled with all the stuff that they brought, which was way too much. And then the kid's walking next to the stroller because the actual stroller is housing all the merchandise that they bought or the leftovers from the food or something that they ate. Don't skip those midday breaks,
especially
whether it's in park or out of park.
Right, and especially if you know your kid is going to be tired and melt down. Yeah. Because you just need that,
You're not going to believe it, but children will have meltdowns, people.
So
sometimes
adults.
and adults will also have meltdowns. And a lot of times when the child has a meltdown, the adult then has a meltdown at that child.
100%.
And it's not good for anyone.
No.
At the end of the trip, what would you rather do? Go, we might have missed something because we took an hour and a half break to go back to our room? Or do you want to remember, I just ripped into my kids because they were tired in the middle of the day and I was tired and we didn't take a break? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's go for we took a break. Maybe we missed something, probably didn't,
Yep.
but at least we're all happy. Pack that food so you don't skip snacks and meals and all. You know, the kids are going to be hungry.
Or you have that dining reservation
Yeah.
and you're like, we only have like 2 more hours.
Right.
And they're like, what? I'm hungry now.
Right. That's you pull out your little, you know, Teddy Grahams or whatever it may be. We already talked about don't force them on the rides.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge mistake you can make. It's not fun for anyone. You, your child, the cast members, the people around you that have to witness it. Like, I, again, will never forget. Like, I still, when I think about that lady trying to force her kid, like, I feel bad for not only the kid, but the mom. Because, you know, we don't know what else is going on in that world. You know, that mom could have walked away from it going, wow, I'm never like that. I'm stressed out. I'm anxious. I spent all this money and I just flipped, you know? So 100%. You just want to avoid that in any way we can. And then we talked about, you know, don't you like plan it so you're not doing fireworks every single night.
Yeah, 100%.
Unless you know that you have the opportunity to sleep in the mornings the next morning. Then that goes back to our kind of planning. All right, got a last few tips for you. What is our first one if you want to cut down time of waiting in line?
Mobile order your food, which is awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of places, the quick services and stuff does have mobile order time where you can do that.
Yeah. And it does. It cuts down that time. Another thing that we talked about with the picky eaters on that episode is you can customize very easily in a lot of the mobile order restaurants and stuff.
Very nice.
You know, so your kid just wants the plain cheeseburger. It's a lot easier to customize it there than having to stand in a line, all these people in front of you, all these people behind you, the cast member, and you're going, well, I want a cheeseburger, but I don't want that, but I do want this, but not this because the kid doesn't like this. And, you know, you can take care of a lot of that on mobile. We talked about rider switch. Learn it, use it. You got to take advantage of that.
I mean, it's pretty much at every ride that
it's on every ride with the height restriction. Yeah. So
which is nice.
There's no reason not to take advantage of that.
Right. And even if like your kid's old, like tall enough, I mean, but they don't want to ride because they're scared. Yeah. So
and it's another one too, you know, so much of this depends on your family dynamic. For example, when we used to go and Lacey was too young to ride some rides, but we were with my mom or your mom who didn't want to do rock and roller coaster while me and my dad and you and Kaylin did, we knew and they were okay with sitting out. Again, what you don't want to do is get there and be like, oh yeah, by the way, you can't ride this one because we need someone to sit with the kid.
Right.
You know, like, and it doesn't mean it has to have a height restriction. There might be some they just don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, no height restriction. It doesn't mean a kid might be like, I don't want to get on a spinny ride like that, you know, or they have sensory issues and it might be very hard for them. You know, you don't want to all of a sudden be in a situation where you're going, yeah, you just sit out with them. You don't get to ride it today. You know, so just think of that stuff. Does it rain in Disney ever?
All the time.
Has it ever happened?
All the time. Have a backup plan for rain, you know, because it might be where it's a nice quick rain where you can run in and go to PhilharMagic and watch that. And then by the time you're done, you know, it's over, the rain's done. But, you know, sometimes, you know, just make sure you have like rainy day ponchos and things. Like you can get them on Amazon, put them in your bag. So then you can go around all that.
Yeah. Like if you're at Epcot and rain is coming, you head over to the seas with your friends because of the full aquarium.
Oh, 100%.
You can spend a lot of time in there while it's raining. Finding Nemo over, of course, at the show over at Animal Kingdom is like, about 20 minutes or so now. I know they cut it a little. Yeah. I still haven't seen the new one.
I have.
Which isn't new anymore. You have. But I know. I need to go see it. Finally, let your kids be part of the planning process and making choices.
Yeah. Ask them what they want to do.
Even if it's just, look, I know, again, you spend a lot of money. We all do. We know that. You do want to have some control of it. You do want to plan. Of course you do. It can be as simple as once a day saying, what ride do you want to do next?
Right.
And you do it every day. what snack do you want next?
Right.
What character do you want to meet? What show? Like, give them a little bit of the planning process. They will think that they're like controlling the whole vacation by controlling one thing. It's just the way kids are.
Yeah.
And they're going to feel included because, you know, the trips, we talk about this all, the trips do cost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? You want to still make it the best trip. Don't force everything upon everyone and have a miserable time just because you are worried about wasting money.
Yeah.
You're actually going to have so much better of a time.
Yeah.
If you do these types of things and let the other people, especially the kids in your family, just plan stuff. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
and it's all Disney. They're going to pick something you like anyway. If I say, hey, what snack do you don't want next? And they go, I want a Mickey pretzel, and I don't particularly want one. It's still a Mickey pretzel, and I'm going to eat it. So
Yeah.
everybody wins, right?
Sure. Yep.
That's all we got, I think, for the little kids, right? The under teenage age. Anything else we missed? I think we covered a pretty good portion of it.
Yeah, I think so.
We will do one talking about the older kids. They'll probably the teenagers, you know, the 13 up to maybe 18, you know, because then they're on their own. They can do whatever they want. Yeah. So we'll do that in a couple weeks. Of course, if you want to hear that, if you want to hear everything coming up. So I know we kept saying we're Valentine's weekend, we're doing Stella Nova Resort. And we're doing Disney parks, so we can answer the question. You only stay at Universal. You spend all your time at Disney. We are going to do that to a point, but we had a wonderful opportunity that we get to go to do Mardi Gras on Friday at Universal Studios. So we are Friday going to be there, but Thursday we will see what it's like. So we'll still give you our opinion on what it is like to stay at a Universal at $112 a night right now for a Florida resident at Stella Nova. Spending time at Disney compared to, you know, just staying at Disney and spending time. But we'll also get to bring you some Mardi Gras content from Universal. So very excited for that. So again, you want all this info, you want all these episodes, you got to hit the subscribe button and get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. And if you are ready for that next trip, of course, no matter where you want to go, our trusted partner, MEI Travel, will handle the planning so you can focus on the memories. They offer free vacation planning services and have nearly 20 years of experience creating memorable vacations. Visit mainstmagic.com/travel for a fee-free, no-obligation quote today. And then, of course, as long as you are out there, Rhonda and I would be super thankful if you would please leave us a rating and review.
Because it helps our show grow.
That's all we've got. We'll see you real soon.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts, Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.